Hello, hello. I know it always takes some time for this bad boy to kick in on the playback. It is the most annoying thing ever. The most annoying thing known to mankind. But if you're here, say hello. Hi, how's your Monday going? I hope it's going well. Hello. Hi, Angelica. See, I can see this stuff on my phone faster. That's why I always do this and I look down on my phone because I can see things better. See, then everything just kind of like jumps. It's wild. Hello, hello, hello. I typically don't do I haven't done lives like this in a very long time, to be honest. I was doing lives and then I still do lives, but I do lives primarily for patrons now, instead of public lives. I don't know what happened. Like that just became a whole thing. Yes, Charlie, it's a live, not a premiere. I would not, I think the amount of information to cover would definitely be too much for me to sit down and edit on the back end. But I'm gonna try to. I'm not gonna make any promises because y'all know when like I make plans to do things. If you've been here long enough and you know me well enough at this point, you know whenever I make plans to do stuff, it never happens that way. So I just flying by the seat of my pants has got me through most things in life, and so I'm going to continue to fly by the seat of my pants because it's been beneficial. Um, I don't want this to be an excessively long live because for those who are unable to watch right now and are watching on playback, I do want the information to be as informative but also as concise as possible. So, one, before we get started, I think that the question is always going to be, haven't you done videos on this stuff before? Why do you keep doing the same thing over and over? Because we have to keep talking about it. If we kind of, you know, let it go, I feel like we're only giving room and opportunity for things to continue to progress the way that they've been progressing. And so, like I always like to say, I want to keep my foot on their neck at this point. And I know that a lot of people who have watched my channel or have watched my content before um, ask similar questions to what I'm going to cover, or ask, like, primarily, I think a lot of people ask, like, well, what can I do to help? Especially if you think that your county or the city or the state that you're living in is not seeing as much of an influx of banning and challenging as other places. So, yes, this is something that I will continue to talk about because that is actually one of the ways that you can help is continue to talk about it, continue to help educate each other, continue to bring awareness. Because this bad boy, y'all, this is not going away anytime soon. And I also feel like in here in the US with elections coming up soon, this is going to be a big part, I think, of the upcoming election year, which I am not looking forward to at all. So I hope everyone is having a good evening. I hope everyone's week is off to a good start. It is Monday, and Mondays be Mondaying. We gonna make that a word. Mondays be Mondaying because it's life, and that is what it is. Please understand that I am only one person. Just kind of disclaimer. I cannot speak for everyone's experience. Do know that parents who live in different areas, parents, caregivers, or concerned community members, public librarians, school librarians, academic librarians, we all see this from different angles. And so I am speaking from my experience as a parent and a public librarian. I cannot speak for everyone's experiences, although I do read about other people's experiences. Also, what I see on the back end, it may not be as extreme as it is in other places. Florida and Texas are definitely hot spots for a lot of this stuff. So there's that. On top of that, there are going to be some things, you may have some questions that I will have to answer in the most generic way possible, because of course I keep my job, specifics about my job, as neutral as possible, because I want to keep, personal and work separate as much as I can. So yes, are we all ready to get started? this is gonna be a thing. It's gonna be a thing, and maybe I will do a few more lives related to this. But as you know, I do. If you're new here and you don't know, and this is your first time here, I often do discussion videos based off of news that I hear myself, or news that people like DM to me. I have people who send me stuff on TikTok at this point. Things that I hear from fellow colleagues, things that I see on listservs. So I'm not the end all be all when it comes to information. I get a lot of information from other places, from other people that I work with. So I just feel like, as a book community here in BookTube, I wish that more of us were frequently talking about it. I know that there are groups or pockets of us that have been really, really, really discussing book banning and book challenging as much as we can, but I wish our community as a whole did just a smidge more. Yeah, I follow Rachel, and I have talked about book banning and book challenging, and she's definitely seeing a lot of it because she is based in Florida. And she's definitely giving some very, very interesting points and conversations from the perspective of a parent. So if you haven't checked out any of her stuff on her channel, or if you haven't checked out her TikToks, those are definitely some great resources, and as a place to gain some more information. So yeah. All right. So first question, because ironically, this is a thing, and I understand why it is a thing. So first things first, it's okay. You're not super late. I promise you're not super late. We're literally only 7 minutes in. I didn't start it, and I'm having deja vu. I am having deja vu, which is what it is. Okay, so the first thing that I do want to bring up is, what is the difference between a book ban and a book challenge? So naturally, as things do happen, they always do happen, the terminology for a book ban and a book challenge are being like intertwined. They are not the same thing. Deja vu means I am tired. Thank you. If I told y'all the Monday that I had today was a Monday for me. Not necessarily in a bad way, but it was like the universe is working against me today. But first things first, difference between a book ban and a book challenge. People are, and not with bad intentions, but I think the terms get thrown around in a way where people think that a book ban and a book challenge are the same exact thing. They are not the same exact thing. So whenever you're talking about banning and challenging, try to remember that they are two different things. Okay. So a challenge is a formal attempt. This is when you have someone who may go to a school board, or might go to a public library and say, hey, I know that you have this book in your collection. This is not typically the nice way, because it's rarely ever like a nice situation. I'm just making it, I'm making nice here. But a book challenge is when someone essentially makes a formal complaint. Okay. It's when they are questioning the suitability of a book to be a part of a collection. They may not think that the book is appropriate for the group or the collection that it's in. So, for example, let's use All Boys Aren't Blue as an example, because that's one of the most, at this point, that's one of the most frequently challenged and banned books. They may say like, okay, because of XYZ content in this book, I don't feel like this is appropriate for a teen audience. And how they go about making that challenge is going to vary by institution. It'll vary by state, vary by county, district. There's a lot of different ways that people can do it. A book ban is what happens when a book challenge basically has been followed through. This is where the censorship exists. So that means that that material that has been put into question is officially removed from libraries, schools, public spaces in which it's effectively preventing people from being able to access the material. The best way to think about it is that a book ban is a successful book challenge. It's the effect or the result. I should say result. It's the result of a successful book challenge. It's it sucks because I think that you'll see a lot more book bans happening in school districts, in school libraries, as opposed to public libraries. And I'm not saying that book bans are not happening in public libraries, but I feel like our ability to kind of maneuver is a little bit different than school libraries, unfortunately. I feel like they have a lot more red tape to go through than we do. So I think that schools are definitely getting hit the worst. I see, Charlie, you have 2 questions. If y'all have questions while I'm talking, please ask. I'm like, I hate talking at people. I mean, I am talking to you, but please interrupt with questions when you're as a librarian. Do you explain people about books when someone's coming as a book who isn't aware of what's going on? What do you mean by that? Like, give me a more detailed example. It depends. Where I'm at right now, it's library by library, and we're not all making the same decision. So one library, and this is me talking from a public library standpoint, one library may make the decision to, let's say, take a book that was originally in the children's collection and move it to the teen collection, or take a book from the teen collection and move it to the adult collection. And another library may say, we're not moving it. Like, there are reviews that support this book and the appropriateness for the target demographic. We're not moving it. So in some places it's library, and then you have places like Texas where your own governor is coming up with a list of books that they just want removed. So a lot of it, because of the way that the United States functions as a government in general, government in the United States, it is going to vary state by state. It will vary down county to county. And so there's no definitive way to say that, okay, this public library is not going to have it, so no public libraries can have it. Now, you have other things that are going in tandem with this, with like curriculum changing and not being able to teach certain things, or specifically like with Black history, and Florida feeling like it's okay to teach that slavery was beneficial to Black people. So that's a whole different ballgame. I feel like it's, like I said, it's different when it comes to K through 12 than it is once you start getting into the public library world. Someone comes in, asks for a book, this band, but they're unaware of all this going on. Well, for me, Charlie, this is why I said it's kind of hard for me I can't speak on behalf of everybody else because it's so case by case. Where I'm at, we're not banning anything. So there's no explanation there's no explanation to give them. If they want a book and we have it in the collection, they're going to have access to it. So that's not something that I necessarily would have to come across. It's not something that I've ever come across. So that's not a thing. to be honest with you. Texas is ghetto. And I know, Brie, I know you see all this firsthand. Ask Charlie if you have questions. Ask what happens when a person comes in with the books that you know they copy from a website. It happens. So basically, the issue that they're seeing now with book challenges is that you have organizations like Moms for Liberty, No Left Turn, and they're actually creating these designated websites where they are making it easier for people to come in with list of books and the content, not having read the book necessarily, but being able to pinpoint specific things in books that these other organizations have detailed for them. Now, every library, every district, every state, every county, they're going to have different processes. So everyone has a process that they follow whenever a formal challenge is made. Now, what that process is going to vary from every area. Some people may say, okay, well, you have to fill out a form. And some people may say, you have to fill out a form for every single book that you want to challenge. So it makes no difference if we know that they've copied. And some forms will ask you, like, well, have you read the book? You still give them the right to challenge the material. And you don't, this is where it gets dicey, because you can't say, like, well, I know you got that from a website, so you can't fill out a form. That's not the way it works. And we know, you can tell, because they'll come in with this laundry list of things. And oftentimes when they're asked, like, have you read this book? They haven't read it. They're literally, and this is completely my opinion, these are the same people who complain about their children being indoctrinated and say that their children are being brainwashed. But these are the same people who have not a single thought of their own, with these long lists, haven't read the books because someone's told them that these are the books. Half the time, especially when this wave of book challenging started, a lot of times these were books that were published, especially the newer stuff. And when I say newer stuff, I don't mean like this year and last year published. I mean stuff that someone has found and now it's getting traction, even though the book was published 5 years ago. It's a strange phenomenon to kind of watch happen in person. And it really makes you question everything that you hear some people say about indoctrination. And it's kind of like, but if you can't form a single thought of your own, aren't you being indoctrinated too? It's it's weird. It's weird. It's weird, and weird. There's so many things. There's so many things. Am I freezing? Am I freezing for anybody? Yes, I keep freezing. Am I freezing, or is everybody good? Let me know. My internet looks stable, but looking and being stable are two different things. We know this. That's good as me. Yeah. Okay, I live in Illinois. Books have been banned. Yeah. Texas is ghetto. Still getting paid. Yeah. Yeah. Just because it doesn't matter. Like, if your book is banned it doesn't mean that your book is taken off the market, the public market. That's not happening. What they're saying is that they don't want kids to have open access to these materials. Now, what does end up happening, unfortunately, is that for some of these kids, where it's important for them to have access to these books, especially books where they are seeing their own experiences, they're seeing themselves on page, sometimes their school library or a public library is the only place that they're ever going to get that book, because you have to think about their financial capacity to get these books. I mean, even for most of us in the community, like some of us, at least, we can't go out and just buy books to buy books. It just, money right now, this economy, it just ain't it. And so even for me, I do most of my reading from the public library. And if they were to cut off access, like, I'm not going to be able just to go out and buy whatever book I want. And the kids who need these books the most are not going to be able to do the same thing. And what's most important right now is the kids that need these materials are the ones who are being affected. It's not the adults. The adults, I think, in a lot of these situations are not really thinking about the kids. And a lot of it is because I think something is inappropriate for my child. I don't think it's appropriate for anybody else's child. But unfortunately, for me personally, in my opinion, it is not your business to determine what somebody else's child should and should not have access to, because you're not the parent or caregiver in that household. What may be emotionally appropriate, when I talk about like emotional intelligence, what may be appropriate for one child may not be appropriate for another child, but it is only up to the parent and the caregiver to deserve that. I can decide for my daughter, like, hey, I think she's at a level of maturity where she can handle this content. It's something that I'm willing to sit down and have a conversation about. And then there could be an instance where I can say, like, hey, you know what? I don't think she's ready for this, but I don't think it's my right to tell another parent or caregiver that because my child should not be reading this right now. I don't think it's appropriate for her age. I can't tell another parent and caregiver that their child also can't read it. That's not my business, nor is it my place. I don't pay their bills. I don't take care of their child. That's not my business. And it's not of the collective good. Like that's not my business to make that decision for them. So that's a huge part of the issue as well. I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all are moving fast. Y'all are moving super, super fast. Okay. Give me 1 second and I will catch up. Yeah, Moms for Liberty. The irony of these, they are pieces of work. I will not say what I really want to say about them because I don't want this to get flagged, but use your imagination and you will get to where I'm at. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, we are. Just probably not. I won't even say not at the level, because I think once again that depends on where you are. I just think that the policies and procedures that exist for a public library may be different in some areas than for a school. I think school libraries are getting hit really, really, really bad. But yes, public libraries are receiving challenges. I have been a part of situations where challenges have happened. I do not talk about them publicly because I just don't want to necessarily disclose that information because of the nature of how I keep things separate. But yes, I have been a part of some of these things that have been received for a public library. Not always. And that's, Amy, that's so weird. It's like, you don't even have a public library card here. Why are you here? It's like what is it? The Mean Girls thing. She doesn't even go here. Like, why are you here? But it does happen. You will have people who will travel. You will have people who have gotten wind that a library owns certain books, and they will do everything in their power to remove access for everyone because they don't feel like anyone should be reading those materials. No. I've never seen anything like that. Anything that I have seen has been based upon age appropriateness, not necessarily like, is something accessed correctly or incorrectly. Usually we deal with this stuff internally, and it's not like challenging. It's just that, okay, based on the content, should it really be in this category or should it be in that category? Which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because when you are cataloging your books correctly or accessing them correctly, you're creating a better avenue for searchability for patrons. So I don't really see that as a bad thing. I mean, I could be wrong by that, but I think that making sure your books are in the right categories, in the right places, regardless of whether it's history or political opinion, that's it's accessibility things. Bookstores and sellers are all like, do stores do read-alongs for children, etc.? That's up to the stores. There that would get dicey. Okay. That I think would undo the whole framework. I mean, I feel like the whole framework of the United States is pretty much getting undone anyway, but that would be a completely different level. When a ban or challenge happens, I won't say that bigger entities are affected. Now, if we're looking at it from the publisher side, it is a problem. When you have these smaller presses or indie presses, it does create issues because they don't have the manpower, or they don't have the financial backing the way that your big five publishers do. I listened to a webinar not too long ago, and I can't remember what it was, a small press, and they were talking about the impact of challenging and banning, and that although it, for some people, they think, okay, well, publishers will be fine. Yes, if you think about the big publishing houses, they're perfectly fine. But when you start taking into consideration these smaller presses, these indie presses, it does affect them in some ways because they can't handle having a challenge or a ban. It affects them too much. But I've never, I mean, booksellers in bookstores typically like put up displays at this point. Like they put up displays. And so, I mean, I'm sure they have customers who come in and complain, and I'm sure they're pretty much like, if you don't like our store, you don't have to come here. Because they can say that at that point. It is unprofessional for me to say to someone, if you don't like although you want to say it, if you don't like what we have in this library, you could go somewhere else. But you can't do that. You can't do that. Okay, y'all. I really am I'm trying to catch up on your questions. Okay, everybody good? No freezing? That's how late I am. Yeah, yes, Angelica is absolutely right. Right under your comment, ALA's website, the Office of Intellectual Freedom, is huge. I'd like anything that you want to know about books that are being challenged and banned. It's PEN America. PEN America has a very detailed list where they have documentation of the book that has been challenged, whether it ends up banned, where it has been challenged and or challenged and or banned, and the reason why. And they have this working spreadsheet that they have. And going through that list is just, it's depressing. It really is. So ALA gives a very big picture and gives a lot of resources. ALA's Office of Intellectual Freedom also does Banned Books Week, which happens in September or September. Mine is getting old. So they're a great resource, but if you want like down to the nitty gritty, PEN America has been doing some serious some serious documentation. I don't want to see this, but they should be read about it. This world doesn't care about such negative parts of life, so children should be the process. And you know what's interesting about that is that a lot of these things that they consider to be negative, a lot of kids have, and they're traumatic things, but kids have experienced these things or are currently experiencing them. And this may be the only opportunity that they get to kind of process some of that stuff through literature. And I can also say on the flip side of that, it helps build empathy. Because some kids go through things that other kids will never have to deal with in a million years. And sometimes reading about someone else's experience, I would say 9 times out of 10, you learn to appreciate and empathize with those experiences more than you would have before. And books build empathy for kids. It teaches them so much about so many different walks of life. And to take that away is just kind of like, and you wonder why when your kids get 20, 21 years old, they can't function. They got to work with somebody who's completely different with them. And they just cannot fathom like, oh my gosh, I have to work with, I have a BIPOC coworker. Honey, this is the world. Like I think to us, it's very strange. But for some people like this, this is what they breathe and eat. Like they believe this. This is their core, their morals and their values. And they believe in their hearts of hearts that what they're doing is right. And, I don't think that time can be spent trying to really convince some of those people who are like knee deep in the trenches with believing some of this stuff. I don't know if that much time should be spent trying to convince them that they're wrong. I think the best thing that we can do is to continue to speak out, raise awareness, and create different paths of accessibility, because some people are just, you're never going to change their mind. And I think for me, it's taken a long time to reckon with the fact that for some of these people, it's like talking to a brick wall. And you also have to understand that this has been a long time in the making for some of these, especially these big organizations like Moms for Liberty, No Left Turn, and all these far right groups that have developed. Um, they've been building up to this. This is not something that just happened overnight. And so their efforts, the research that they're doing, it's very, very strong. And you can't deny that it's very strong. And so it's the pushing back, which I'll get to ways to kind of push back against that. But I think trying to argue with them all the time and convince them that they're wrong, it's just, they're not going to change their minds unless they want to change their minds. I just don't think sometimes that it's something that we can do. Okay, it's October 1st to the 7th. Thank y'all. I was like, is it in September or October this year? Because I always feel like it's I always feel like it's strange. It's like I feel like it used to be in September all the time, and then it's October. Yeah. The library I used to work at had ever, yeah. Yeah. And so here's the other thing too to take into consideration. Um every library is different. And this is something to constantly keep in mind. Some libraries, the way that their funding works, and I think that this is also a part of it that people don't always understand, is that we're not all funded the same way. Where we get our money from, how we get our money, it literally will vary system by system. Some libraries literally cannot afford to do whatever they want in terms of like, okay, we respect that you've given us a challenge, but it is what it is. Like, we're not moving it. Some libraries can afford to do that because they are in a position or area where their funding is not going to change. There are libraries, especially those that are in small rural areas, they're at the mercy of their board of trustees. And if the board is not having it, and if they feel like you have to remove this thing or you get no funding, you're in a tough spot. And so we start looking at things like self-censorship. When I went to Y'all Fest last year, I was kind of disappointed in the panel that they had about book banning and book challenging, because I felt like one comment was made about, well, I know some librarians won't even purchase my book right now. And it wasn't ill intent behind the comment, but I think that it should have been explained more, because what people don't understand is that some librarians are engaging in self-censorship as a means of protection because their hands are tied. So they won't buy anything for their systems or their libraries that is controversial because they don't want to lose their job. At the end of the day, I think people have to understand that the people who are doing these selections, the people who are curating these collections for kids, have livelihoods. They have bills that they have to pay, food that they have to keep on the table. They have families of their own. There are librarians that are getting doxxed, which is why I am very mindful about certain things that I do. Not that I'm afraid to speak out, but I don't try to give too many points in which you can figure out where I am, I do that intentionally because people are doing stuff like that right now. And, you know, everybody is not in the same state of mind as me. I think I'm a little cuckoo because I always tell people, for the safety of you and me, I don't want to do jail time, and I want you to remain 6 feet above the ground. Everybody's not like that. And I don't blame everybody. Like this, you just don't say stuff like that lightly. But I am a single mom with a child. And so I do. I'm very like, don't show up to my doorstep if you don't want no problems. But it's scary that random people on the internet are figuring out like where you work, where you live, and showing up. It's very disheartening and very, I think, traumatic in a lot of ways when people call you a groomer or a pedophile and you spent your entire career working with kids. You love working with kids. You love, giving them materials that help them feel seen or put them in an experience that they've never experienced. You love seeing a kid develop this joy and passion for reading because that's what we're here to do, right? And so when people tell you that you're effectively trying to harm kids, it is a self-esteem blow. Regardless of whether you know that you're not doing it, it still is like, how could you possibly think that I would ever want to do something that would hurt a child? It's it sucks. It sucks. I've been able to speak as that funny. I have heard like fellow librarians say stuff like this, like when people do banned book displays for banned book week, people are like, wait, are you guys banning? They're like, no, that's not. That's not. Yeah, listen, you don't want this smoke from me, man. Like, leave me alone. Man, just leave me alone. Okay. Tracy, can you explain to me what you mean by that comment? I don't want to assume anything by the comment because I'm reading, and so I don't want to make assumptions about anything. All right, enough of that question. I have definitely deviated. Okay. So the next thing, if I could click things correctly, how has book banning changed? So I should have said, how has book challenging and book banning changed? So what's interesting is I think that there seems to be this assumption that book challenging, book banning is like a new phenomenon. Like this has never been a thing before, which of course is not true. Challenging and banning of books has been going on for a very, very, very long time, y'all. This is not new. ALA has been doing the reporting of the data associated with challenges and bans for a very long time. The issue is that it's an influx. It's like, where did all this information come from? So what I'm about to tell you is only information from the year 2022. So we won't have any information about this year until next year. So in April of next year, National Library Week, ALA's Office of Intellectual Freedom will develop another report. They will generate like whether book challenging and banning has increased or decreased, and then what are the most challenged and banned books for that year. So any information that I'm giving you is based on data drawn from last year. In addition to that, you also have to remember and recognize that most challenges go unreported. Tracy, I just want to get back to you. It's not a lack of attention. It depends upon where you're looking. And so I can't speak for the founders of the movement at all. I can't, because I'm not in a place to do so. But it's not that it's getting a lack of attention. It's really not getting a lack of attention. I think in this community, it's getting a lack of attention. But nationally, if you just Google book bans or book challenges, there's a new news article every single day. I mean, nationally, it's not going unnoticed. There are constant up and down battles. There are people who are in the midst of court cases right now because of book challenges and book banning. It's not a lack of attention. Now, could we say that certain individuals may be not giving it a lot of attention? That could be very true. I can't speak to that. I don't know, because I'm looking at it from a bigger picture than individually. I can say from here in this community, because I'm so actively involved in it, that we as a whole are not really paying it much attention. And here's the reason why. This is my opinion. Once again, anything I say on here, unless it's data driven, unless it's coming from factual sources, it's going to be my opinion. I think that when it doesn't affect you, you're not going to pay as much attention to it. For example, Rachel is speaking out about it so much because she's invested in accessibility, and it's right in her back door. And she's passionate about it, and she cares about it, and she's seeing it firsthand. For me, I'm also seeing it firsthand because of my profession, right? For a lot of us in this community, we don't have to deal with it. It's not something that we see. It's not something that we are naturally going to hear about all the time. And so there is, in some ways, a lack of involvement in a public way. I can't say whether anybody's doing anything privately, because I can't, like, once again, I can't speak to what people are doing privately, but publicly, there's not a lot of attention here. There's not a lot of information circulating here, except for the pocket of us that continue to talk about it. But we are also impacted by it continuously all the time. For a lot of us in this community, access hasn't changed. So we may know that it's going on, but when you're able to still get access to books, when you may live in an area where, book challenging and book banning is not a huge thing, it's not that you don't care, because I don't want to insinuate either that no one cares, but it's not top of your mind. It's not something that you're constantly thinking about, because you don't have to deal with it every single day of your life. It also could be that people just don't know what to do. And I also say we, because this is a community. And so even though I constantly speak about it, I am including myself within the framework of this community. We as a community, I think, could be doing more speaking out about it, because we have a power of influence. I'm not the largest creator by far on this platform. But I do think that we influence a lot of people, not just here in the United States, but internationally. And I think that sometimes that influence could be used for good things, but also it's like, okay, I have this influence. Well, what do I do with it? Like, if I'm not seeing it, or, what if I'm not from the United States? Like, how do I use my power to make change? So I feel like there's a couple of different things at play. I think for me, primarily, what I would love to see is just more dialoguing about it, more emphasis on books that are being challenged or books that are being banned, and it's not necessarily happening all the time. I hope that answered your question, Tracy. I'm going to highlight this really quick. Yes, it is. This is a good point. Like I was saying, that what's so interesting about all the data that we can get from ALA, the data that we can get from PEN America, a lot of that is not really accurate. It's to the best of their knowledge, because so many things are going unreported. ALA will tell you it, and if I'm wrong about this number, please correct me if you're watching this on playback, or if you know the number off the top of your head now. But I think like over 80% of actual challenges that happen are not really reported. So imagine the number that you're seeing now. It's not even a fraction really of what's happening behind the scenes because no one is reporting that information. And then when you have things like this, where you have things just being wiped off of shelves, like it's hard to get a good snapshot of what is actually happening, boots to the ground, which is unfortunate. Okay. So in 2022, ALA released information that 1,269 demands to censor library books and resources happen just in that year. Okay. Now, you have to remember too that they're just thinking about the actual demand. Now, in that demand, you can have multiple books. So, what ends up happening is that the number of unique titles that are getting challenged is not going to match the number of actual requests that are happening, if that makes sense. So, like, I can go in and I would be documented as one of those instances of a challenge, but on my list, I could have 20 books. So that those two numbers are never going to match up. So when I say those two numbers, if they don't add up, that's why they don't add up, because I feel like that can be really, really confusing for some people. So that was 1,269 instances in which materials were being challenged. They said that that was the highest attempt, and I am convinced that 2023 is going to be higher than 2022. I really do. I think the instances that are happening now are just absolutely ridiculous. But that was the highest number of attempted book bans ALA has seen since it was compiling information more than 20 years ago. So they've been doing this for a long time, right? But last year was the most that they have ever seen since they started documenting this information. And the increase between 2021 and 2022 was astronomical. So in 2021, there were 729 reported challenges. That number in 1 year jumped from 729 to 1,269, which is, yeah. So within the framework of all of those challenges, 2,571 unique titles were being challenged for censorship. That's a 38% increase from the 1,858 unique titles that were targeted in 2021. Of course, when we look at the grand scheme, the makeup of what was being challenged, the vast majority were written by or about members of the LGBTQIA plus community, as well as BIPOC people. So when people often make the claims that, oh, this is not about attacking the queer community, this is not about attacking BIPOC people of the community, it's like, but the data proves something completely different. So which one is it? Either you don't want to F with us or you do, because at this point, the data is showing that you don't. And for some reason, that seems to be the narrative, like, oh no, like we're not trying to censor queer experiences or BIPOC experiences, but you are, because the data is showing that the primary groups that are being affected by these challenges are people of color in the queer community. So it is what it is. With those challenges, 58% were books that were targeted, books and materials that were targeted in school libraries, which is why I said they're seeing more than we are. And 41% were in public libraries. So school librarians are seeing a lot more than we are, but that's not to say that we're not seeing it at all. Yes, I do. I have some things. I have a section that is specifically talking about what you can do as an individual. That part, like, it makes me so, yeah, almost double. And to be honest with y'all, I would not be surprised if that number goes up even more when they report on the data next year. it's almost like it feels inevitable for that data, like, to go. It just feels inevitable that it's going to go up, because I just don't think that this is going to change anytime soon. I don't know. I think part of me, this is a part of me that's kind of naive, because I keep thinking like, oh man, like, you know, I feel like I did this last year. I'm like, oh yeah, like 6 to 8 months from now, like hopefully things are going to calm down. And it's like 6 to 8 months from what I was thinking last year, like where we are right now. I'm just kind of like, yo, like things have gotten worse. Like, because now with the laws, you have to think about how many government officials now are using the law as a way to increase book challenging and book banning. Or they're using the legal system, which we all know is all types of jacked up and broken. We can do like a 2-hour live about that. But I also feel as though they're using it to shut us up. Teachers, school librarians, public librarians, academic librarians, they're using it to shut us all up. Because they have, and I always get I don't get emotional, like not sad, I get angry. But I just get so angry. There are laws that are being enacted in certain areas that would send librarians and teachers to jail if they were to provide access to certain books for kids, because they consider it child pornography. That is scary. All right. My state has tried some funky stuff with that. And I would be a liar if I didn't say, like, dang, like, I didn't think that anything like that would pass. It wasn't, it's like, I don't think it will pass, but I think it's the fear that someone even had the idea to rewrite things in hopes that if we were caught breaking said law, providing access to books that go against said law, would put us in jail or land us with a hefty fine. What sucks even more about most of these laws that they write and try to get passed is that they're very obscure, because they use words that are like blanket statements. Like if you say like any book with obscene material, well, what do you define as obscene? Because what is obscene to one person may not be obscene to another. Now, y'all, you have to keep in mind, in the grand scheme of things, like, yes, there are still adult books that are getting challenged and banned. Yes. But we're talking about children's lit here, okay? We're talking about children's lit. Teen lit, all right? These things are being published by big publishing houses, right? They're getting reviewed by prestigious journals like Kirkus, Booklist, School Library Journal, Hornbook, etc. Whatever may, like, these are people who stake their reputations on reviewing and providing age ranges in a way that makes or helps librarians make informed decisions. Nobody out here is trying to give a child a book that is going to harm them. Nobody is out here trying to give a teen a book that's going to harm them. Do we recognize that what is appropriate for one child or teenager may not be appropriate for another? Absolutely, because that is just life, which is why for a lot of these books, you see age ranges. And that's not only just for, readability, like, what level is your child reading on, but also content wise. You can have some middle grade books that'll say this is appropriate for an audience of 8 to 12. You'll have some that'll be like, content wise, not saying that it's pornographic or harmful, but you have content where an 8-year-old may not be ready to have that conversation. An 8-year-old developmentally may not be ready. Now, if you as a parent say that my 8-year-old can read this, it's fine. That's your choice. But even reviewers, especially things with like Kirkus and School Library Journal and Book Lists and the Horn Book, they are very meticulous about making sure that these are professionals. These are not just anybody that they pick up off the side of the street. These are people who have been trained, have been doing this for years, and are well respected in their profession. They will give a range and they'll say, this is appropriate for this range. Now, sometimes I'm not going to lie. Sometimes they'll give you a range. And you'll be like, that's a wide range. But I think at that point, they're also giving librarians they're giving them the power to make the final decision. There are times, yes, when like there's a situation right now where I'm having to read a book where it's reviewed as appropriate for a middle grade audience, but I want to read it and double check just to make sure that there's no content where I'm like, okay, well, maybe this would be better suited in this collection. You get what I'm saying? But I say all that to say basically is that nobody is doing anything with any ill intent towards any child. If anything, people are being so meticulous because they don't want to cause any issues. They don't want anyone to be uncomfortable. But the thing about it is that you can't sacrifice accessibility for someone's comfort. If it's not comfortable for you, don't read it. That's fine. You don't have to read it. That's perfectly fine. You don't have to read it at all. But saying that no one should have access to it, that's wild. Like, I don't care how you flip it, how you try to explain that to me. If the content is not straight erotica that I would read as an adult, I don't want to hear about anything being pornographic for a child. Like, at this point, puberty books are being considered pornographic. Since when is science pornographic? Like, it's stuff like that that makes you think, at what point does any of this stop? Like, what limits do these people have? Because at this point, I don't feel like I have any limits. It's just, it's just, honestly, at this point, Angelica, it's called be a parent. Be a caregiver. Like, just do your job. Do your job. Your job is to be a caregiver, be a parent. You determine what is appropriate for your household. I will never shade anyone for saying this is not appropriate for my household. I do not feel comfortable with my child reading this. That is fine. I cannot tell you how to parent. I can disagree with it, right? I can say, like, I don't think that giving a middle school kid a book about puberty when they're going through puberty is inappropriate in my household. Like, because honestly, I'm going to keep it 100. Who wants to have that conversation? Okay? Like, as a parent now, I'm kind of like, dang, at some point in my life, I'm going to have that conversation. And it's like, we started the small conversations already, but it's just like, it's uncomfortable for everybody. All right. It's not fun. No one gets enjoyment out of it. But I look at it from the perspective of, I can teach my child everything I know, and then I would love to have some literature to accompany whatever conversations we have. And then whatever she's reading, come back. Let's talk about it. If you have any questions, you have any concerns, let's talk about it more. But I understand that every parent doesn't function that way. Every parent is just, they're not going to do that. But I'm not going to say, like, you should not have access, or you should be doing this, or you have to have this book in your house. How can I say that? It's not my house. Those are not my kids. I don't know. I have no idea. Related to human body sex is censored as a sure avoid ensure your trend. Which is, everybody has different perspectives and views on that, but I'm very big, even as a toddler, teaching appropriate names of things as well as consent at a very young age. And it doesn't have to be It doesn't have to be sexualized. It literally can be like, you don't give anybody a hug and no one gives you a hug unless the question is asked first. Can I give you a hug? You wait for that yes or no. And if a person says no, no means no. I literally just had that conversation with my child tonight. We don't give hugs and kisses without asking first. Mommy always asks, can I have a hug? Can I have a kiss? And if you ever tell me no, I have to respect your boundaries because that is your body. It starts small like that. But everybody doesn't share those beliefs and views. And so it's unfortunate, but I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it. I low-key feel this way too, Tracy. Like, I feel like it feels like it came out of nowhere, but it was in the making. But I think it literally just happened so quickly. It was like our minds were everywhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were thinking about so many different things. And then literally this is what it's a mess. It's a mess. Yeah. Yes, that too. No means no. And if you ask me 20 more times, it's still gonna be no. Like, no. Like, I have had times where I'd be like, can I have a hug? And my child has said, no, you can't. And I'd be like, okay, that fair, respect. And I've also I've had to teach my child too, like, you cannot just run up to people and give them a hug. Yes, in the grand scheme of things, it looks innocent for a toddler to run up and just give someone a hug, but I want to make sure that consent is always present. Like, it's okay to want to give someone a hug, but you have to ask their permission first, because I would want someone to ask you permission first before giving you a hug or anything that you don't want in that moment. And I hate that. I really do. I don't even allow that with family. Like, and that's a taboo thing too. Like, oh, you don't, that's family. And family be the main problem. Like, no. If my child is not comfortable, if my child does not want to hug you, guess what? Child's not hugging you. And then you could deal with me if you got a problem with it. I'm just kind of that mama that you don't want problems with. That's it. All right, y'all. We are running on an hour. And I said I wanted this to only be an hour. Y'all know how to get me off track. So this question, I'm not going to go through all of them because I think that this is, if you want to know what some of the most banned books were of 2022, my best advice to you is to go to ALA's website. I also did another live show where I reacted to, when the document was released, I did a live show reacting to the most banned books of 2022. I will say this. Usually it's the top 10. Usually it's the top 10 banned books of the previous year. This year it was the top 13. So if that tells you anything about anything, shit has hit the fan. That at this point, ALA couldn't even do a top 10. There were so many books that were tied that they had to do a top 13. Which, frustrating. Angelica, I appreciate you. I'm glad that you think I'm polite and patient. And you know what? I like to think of myself as being polite and patient. But, as I get older, I'm like, I'm not. And I'm okay. I appear to be. But I think that's just to like stop people in their tracks before shit hits the fan. I really do feel like that's all it is. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry for this. My baby is shy. I won't I can't tell if she's introverted just yet. But it takes her a while to like warm up. She has to repeat things with the same group of people before she warms up. And then once she warms up, she's good. But it takes her a while for like the ice to break. And so like I don't try to force her to like, socialize. Cause I'm like, if you don't want to, you don't have to, because I can't imagine what that's like. That's, yeah. I'm so sorry. I can't, that just reminded me to continue to be patient with my baby who's a little bit more shy than I am. Like, I think, of course, naturally, because of level of comfort, I see a side of her that other people don't get to see, but she's a very, very shy baby. Okay, last thing, because I know this was a major question that people had. How can you help? What can you do? Are there things that you can really do? So I have a list. Because what would I be without a list? Okay. So here are a couple of things. The first thing that you can do is raise awareness. So as an individual in your community, or if you have, a platform on YouTube, or if you have a platform on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, the best thing that you can do is one of the things that you can do. It's not the best thing. I don't want to say it's the best thing. One of the things that you can do is raise awareness. So that means discussing instances of book challenges or book bannings that are happening in your community. So I think a lot of it's interesting, I think, to speak out about what's happening nationally, but sometimes, grassroots efforts, we always say this because, like, think about it in terms of like the election, right? We all get amped up about, oh yeah, the president election. We all get invested in the drama and chaos that comes with that. And what ends up happening, I think, is that as a society, we often forget about local, which I think is kind of the same thing here, where we're super invested in what's happening nationally, especially the wild things that are happening in Texas and Florida and in some places out in the Midwest. But sometimes it's good to look at what's happening in your own community. Those grassroots efforts are going to be super important. So, if you know of any book challenges or book bannings that are happening within your community, you can share it on social media if you feel comfortable contacting the media, or you can participate in any type of community discussions that are happening, right? So if you're in a school district, okay, go to your school board meetings. You can. You have a public interest. Your tax money. You pay tax dollars. So they're open to the public. So if there's been issues about challenging and banning within the school district that you're living in, you have the right to show up and show out. Okay? Because you're an invested member of the community, you pay tax money that goes to these institutions of education. You have the right to show up and say what you need to say. I don't know whether people feel like they have to have a kid, attending that school district. I think that there's a little bit of an emotional connection when you have kids in that school district. But honey, if you live in that district, you live in that county, you pay that tax money, show up and show the fuck out. Okay? Like, because it's within your right. You can do that. Engaging in discussions. Here we are. It's often important to dialogue about this stuff. The more that we keep dialoguing, I think the more that we continue to have these conversations, the more you begin to raise awareness. There are some people who have been here, like, that I don't know if they've watched my channel or if they're new here, but this is a great way to continue to share conversations, talk about different viewpoints, get accurate information, think about like the importance of being able to think for yourself, those critical thinking skills that we love to teach our children about, but are not allowing our children to use those critical thinking skills. It's a great way to discuss the importance of critical thinking and what happens when we limit access to information, how harmful it historically has been. Like, we have seen what happens when censorship occurs. And so it kind of like blows my mind that historically we have very specific instances of what happens when we introduce censorship into society. And when we limit people's access to information, we have perfect examples of what happens, but it's just like people are like, yeah, we're just going to forego history. Like, we're not going to pay any attention to history whatsoever. We're just going to keep trucking forward. So it's always important to have those discussions. Same thing kind of with having those, being an active part of your community. Contact your local school boards if you know that something is happening, if they're not already aware of it. Contact them if you know something, weird is happening, especially if you have like, you know, kids that they're in a public school, whether they're your own kids, friends, kids, or, kids that you just work with and you know that something is happening that, should not be happening in terms of access to information. Contact local libraries, school libraries, or anybody where you can express your concerns. Like, I think people often forget that even if it's not a direct thing, like I said before, where like, oh, I have a child that's in this school district, you can still express concerns as a citizen. You don't have to have a child there or use that public library. You can express your concerns if you get wind of something that is happening that's kind of like, all right, this is, heaven forbid, but let's be honest, and I always say this, every librarian is not following what we consider to be our standards of access to information. There's a more technical term for it, and I can't. Library Bill of Rights. It's like, why won't that come to my mind? Everybody does not follow those things. Okay. It is what it is. There are librarians out there that do agree with what is happening, and unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. If you get wind of something like that happening, where somebody is taking away access from kids, you get wind of it, you can talk to your school board and tell them that you're getting wind of this information and you are expressing your concerns as a citizen that's well invested in your community. So, listen, you pay taxes, okay? If you taking money, I'm telling y'all right now, I'm finna get a little wild because I just feel like if you finna take money out my check every 2 weeks, you best believe I'm finna show out and show up, or show up and show out. Because at the end of the day, you are literally taking money out of my pockets. You're literally taking money out of my pocket. I am not just gonna sit down nilly-willy and be like, hurrah, it's fine, it's cool, go about your bit. No, you're not using my money to do something like this. I'm sorry. I do not work as much as I work and stress out as much as I stress out for y'all to come in and then take my money to fund the foolery that's happening. So it is what it is, because money talk. Same thing with the politicians. Money talks. You don't do what I asked you to do, what's in the best interest of our community members at large. Let's just move you out of office and let's start dipping into your pockets. Because what you're not going to do is dipping into my pockets to fund the foolishness that y'all think is okay. And it's not. It's wrong. So, yes, exactly. You have a voice, just like everybody else. Public library board meetings too. Those are public. Thank you, Rebecca. Remember that. Public library board meetings are open to the public. Taxes. Your money. Don't let these people play with your coins. That's all I could say. Do not let these people play with your coins. This part. Them hundreds that can go to groceries. Okay? Because why are groceries so expensive right now? I would be fine keeping my money and letting my money pay this light bill, this mortgage, this daycare bill, this gas, car maintenance, groceries. I'd be happy to take my money back. Sometimes you have to tell those politicians, you keep playing with money, you play with my money, you keep playing with my money, I'm finna play with your money and get your ass out of office and fuck up with your pockets. That's what you have to tell these people. So, because they don't, I think with a lot of politicians who I feel like sometimes are, and I'm not talking about left or right, because sometimes they all could be crooked. Okay. Democrat, Republican, independent, crooked. Sometimes you really do have to you have to dip into their pockets to let them know, you keep messing up, I will put you out of a job. I will fire you. And the people have the right to do that. I don't know why people like it's amazing that like we often forget. And I think because just the way things function, we often forget like these people work for us. We pay them to work for us. And like any employer, if you're not doing your job, I'm going to fire you because you're not fulfilling your responsibilities. Ain't no write ups, ain't no collect $200. No, you going straight to jail. There ain't nothing like that. So they're not doing their job as your employee. They are your employee. If they don't do their job, fire them. Fire them. Or treat them like that lady off of that show, You're the weakest link. Goodbye. She was ruthless. Me and you both. Me and you both. I would get removed so quick. Ma'am, you have got to go. Okay. Next thing you could do, support your libraries. So I think that this is more applicable with public libraries because it's a little different, like of a ball game with school libraries. But go to library events. Donate to your libraries. Most libraries have like a library friends group, which they are the ones who do all the fundraising and stuff like that. Give them money. They're not. You're not giving them money just to give them. I promise you. They also have a code of ethics and morals that they have to abide by. But it's good to donate to your libraries. Because it keeps them going. And sometimes, like what happened with Nora, I forget what state, but like Nora Roberts donated all that money just to keep that library going at least for another year. She was able to give them enough money to keep them going for another year. Stuff like that matters. Sometimes it is what keeps a library going. Sometimes it does help with funding, especially for those libraries where you have those boards or those councils, those county or city councils who are like, if you include any LGBT books in the children's section, we're going to take away all your money. Like you're not giving them a choice. You're basically telling them like you're screwed. Do what we want or you're screwed over. Michigan, thank you. I can never remember what state it's in. So sometimes donations do make a difference. You know what I'm saying? We don't make a lot of money. Okay, I'm telling you firsthand. We don't make no money. So every little penny does help to help keep us going. Read banned books. I know that, and I don't want to conflate this with the idea that when people are like, oh yeah, when books get banned, this just gonna make sales go up. Listen, Jason Reynolds said it best when he was on Jimmy Fallon's show? I feel like he was on Jimmy Fallon's show. I could be wrong, but I'm like 95% sure. No author takes pride in being banned or challenged. That it's not something that people often take pride in, because a lot of the ways that people are looking at this, I think, is through the lens of adults. You have to understand that for the majority of us, it's not as big of an issue of accessibility. I'm not going to say that it isn't an accessibility issue for some, because we don't all have the finances. I mean, we literally just had a conversation about the economy being trash right now, right? But the kids, y'all, okay? These are kids, and I've worked in areas where this would be detrimental to the kids, all right? We're talking about a lack of resources all over the board, and then you're taking away safe spaces for these kids. This is about them. Adults like to make shit about them all the time, and it's just very strange. But this is about the kids. So reading banned books, it helps you understand the content. I'm not saying don't reading banned books to say like, oh, we're increasing sales. Like that's not it. That's not what we're going for. What we're going for is reading banned books to understand the content and seeing why this content would be beneficial or important for someone else, regardless of whether you like it or not. It reiterates the idea of people being able to um, express themselves freely, to write about experiences that, some of us may be like, I can't handle that content. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just read The Bluest Eye. That was part of one of my banned book diaries. Y'all, that book made me absolutely miserable. Okay. I mean, I gave it 5 stars, but it's not for everyone. But I can see why it worked for me. It worked very well for me. And I can see why it would work well for other people. So it's about understanding why, okay, I can see why, this is someone else's experience. This is valuable for someone. This is the way that the author wanted to express themselves, and to tell this story. And so it's not about increasing book sales, but it's about increasing the awareness of the book, respecting the content, and the freedom to be able to express things the way that you want to express them. Joining advocacy groups is another thing. So you can join American Library Association's Office of Intellectual Freedom. You don't have to be a librarian to be a part of ALA. I keep telling people, like, I think, and I don't know if I think they do, but I'm also from the inside. So I don't know how it views for, like, how it is for people on the outside. Like, you can join them. You don't have to be a librarian to join them. Okay. I think that people can get a lot of great information from ALA. It is, financially, you have to think about that. But I think that that's a great place to start, as well as joining PEN America. Like, those are advocacy groups that are doing a lot of the groundwork and are giving a lot of information. If you want to stay up to date, a lot of the information they have, that's like, if you just want to stay aware of things, that's open to the public. But if you want to get more involved, more boots to the ground with a lot of stuff, think about joining advocacy groups on the national scale, and then also see if there are any groups that are forming locally around you. More numbers means just further reaches. Think about it on YouTube. Like, the more people who watch your video, the farther the algorithm pushes the video out. So think about it too in the terms of these advocacy groups. The more people that join, especially at a local level, the more the word gets out. So it's just great. Sorry, y'all. I am behind on on comments. Y'all forgive me. All right. Try to use the library to curb my book buying. Yes. Before doing it right now, but yes. Thank you, Angelica. Circulation is a good way to do it. Even if you can't donate, check stuff out, y'all. I keep telling people those circulation numbers mean a lot. They do. They really, really do. So even if you can't afford to give your library money right now, because I know a lot of us are in a tight spot, check stuff out. Those circulation numbers, attending library programs, it means a lot. It does. It means a lot. It really does. In the grand scheme of things on the back end, it does mean a lot. Yes, 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 yes. Always positive emails, positive letters. I'm sorry, Jax. That's tough. Is there anyone that you can talk to in terms of like board or anything like that in terms of hours? Okay. That's cool. And that's a big thing. I don't think people realize, like, offering ebooks and audiobooks, and doing programs like that, that's a huge thing because of license things. Like, licensing, is a huge thing. Yeah, no author wants that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you notice that your library doesn't have something, most libraries do have places where you can recommend or suggest things to add to the collection. Those are always great. Um, most of y'all know I do work in collection development. Um, and we do take those seriously. Where funding is enough, they try to make those patron requests. People try to make those things happen. Yeah, libraries are super important. They're super important. Yeah, I did a video on this. Yeah, and it's gotten worse. Some people have sent me some updates of how they're turning the books are facing in on the walls and not facing out. So while they tried to say that the books would still be there, they're not accessible, like physically not accessible, which Texas is just trying to be. If Texas got the opportunity to be what South Carolina was in the Civil War, the first to secede, they would do it. I'm telling y'all, they would do it. They would do it. Oh, Jax. Close the same time I get off work. Dang. Can you get they don't have a way for you to get an online card, Jax, by chance? I'm not, I don't know if there's a way, because what some libraries will allow you to do is that you can start off until you're able to get a chance to possibly go. Some libraries will allow you to sign up for a card via their website. If that's a thing that is, I know that's not a feature for everyone. I just thought that might be a way to do it as well. I don't know if they have access to something like that since it is a smaller library, but that might be something to look into and see if you can sign up for an online card, do proof of like residency, and maybe start there if possible. People can't get there. They deliver. Yeah, mine does that too. Where they deliver. It's nice. It's nice for those who can't, physically get to libraries. Okay, just 4 more tips of how you can help participate in Banned Books Week, which thank you for everyone for pulling the correct date for me, because I was like, September. I don't know when it changed from September, October. It was always like the last week of September or second to last week of September. And now I feel like I'm like, dang, it feels like it's starting to be in October. Okay. But it is in October of this year. Participate. They have so many different things that happen. A lot of authors participate. I know Kelly Yang, who is one of my favorite children and YA authors. She was a huge participant in it last year. I forget what position she had. Was she like the chair? But she was like the author that they chose in order to kind of push out more information about Banned Books Week. And there are a lot of things that were happening on Instagram, a lot of things that were happening on ALA's website. I also recommend, like, if you can check out what your local libraries are doing for Banned Book Week. Like, a lot of libraries do like displays, or they'll do like programs at different locations. But participating is a good way. You're sharing information, you're dialoguing again. It's just this constant raising of awareness, because I think that the moment that we stop raising awareness, the moment that it becomes just such a part of, like, it's on the back burner, is that's when I think, like, it just becomes an issue, because like, oh, okay, well, I did this, last week. 6 months later, it's fine. Like, things are just going to get better. Like, I think people just need to keep talking about it until people just, even if people are sick of it, until things change. Like, you got to keep pushing that dialoguing until things change. When they will change, I don't know. You can do petitions. I saw someone else add, which I had on my list too, doing little free libraries. Those are great. Where, if you have those in your community, putting challenge or ban books into those so that people have access. There are organizations that are doing a lot of groundwork and like getting books donated and making sure that if kids want access to these books, they can get them. I think that that's the whole purpose right now. Like when I keep saying like some of these humans you can't talk to. They're just not they're not going to change. So I think that one of the main ways that I think people are trying to like push back um against all of this is just making sure that accessibility is maintained some way, whether that's through donations, whether that's through little free libraries, book drives, whatever. It's just to make sure that access is maintained, like that these kids still are able to get to these materials if they want to. Um, let's see, last two things. Educating others. What we're doing now, talk to family, friends, colleagues, those that you feel safe with. I don't advocate putting yourself in a position where you are in physical danger. That's not a situation for everyone. Okay. Like, don't don't get out here and the next thing one of y'all's in my DMs talking about, yo, actually I had somebody with 1-2 today because blah blah blah. Like, don't put yourself in a position where you or someone else that you care about is in immediate danger. So when I say dialogue, educate, have conversations with people in your life, make sure you are in a safe space to do so. Protect yourself first by all means, because nowadays you can't even talk to people, which is so unfortunate. You can't have dialogue with people because life and things have just changed. But if you feel comfortable, you feel like it's a safe space, you feel like you will be protected, definitely definitely engage in those conversations. Don't not engage unless, like I said, it's not safe. And the last one is one that we've already talked about. Advocate for policy changes. So that definitely means being involved in your local politics. Um, you know, with elections coming up and all that good jazz, like put bring up challenging and banning books as a point that you want to hear what these politicians have to say about it. Like ask them those hard questions because you deserve to know. Because, like we were saying before, they work for you, baby. You are interviewing your future employee. I have taught myself for the longest time, although my father believes that I've been radicalized, which it is what it is at this point. And he means that in a jokingly way, y'all. He doesn't mean any harm. My dad is like my best friend. I have to look at it that way. Like I have taught myself that, I have to ask you these hard questions. I have to show up and make sure that you are really qualified to do the job that you say you're qualified to do. Like, I don't want to just see your paper resume because, hell, I can make my resume look beefed up if I want to. There are ways to do that. But I need to know, what has your past work history look like? What have you voted for? What have you voted against? Do you have my best interests at heart? And while I'm here asking you this, what are your thoughts on book bans and book challenging? And if they don't fit the bill, and if they're not looking for what you need in terms of you being an employer, don't hire them. Do not hire them. You've really, like, I wish that more people thought about it that way, because you are literally paying out of the time and energy that we put into whatever jobs that we have. um that money gets taken away. And every time I see state, federal, and FICA, my feelings be so hurt because I be looking like, you know what? Medicaid, no problem. My retirement, no problem. Even paying, although I think that health insurance in this country is baffling. No problem. But when I start seeing how much money the state and the federal government and then FICA takes out of my check, and then I see these same politicians acting like complete buffoons all over Beyonce's internet, I, I'm like, as your employer, I'm ashamed to call you my employee. At this point, I'm ready to fire you because you're not acting according to my standards, my policies, and my procedures. If I've outlined specific things of how I want you to be a part of my company and you're not abiding by my company policies, you got to go. And I think the more that people start thinking about it that way, that you're working to pay these people, you literally are working your ass off to pay these people to act like complete fools. Whole mentality will change. Then you will start to advocate for people to be like, no, you got to do what you got to do because I'm not paying you to sit up here and act like you have no sense. You acting like a toddler. My toddler acts better than you, and I'm not sitting here paying you, paying your bills. Half of you paying for your mistresses as well. Like, just it's a very weird logic. I think some people are like, "Oh, Ashley, you're absolutely nuts." I know I am, but I think that it does help me put things into perspective, at least for me personally, when I've started to think more about politics and engaging in my local politics. Like I have to have that mentality because if I feel like if I don't have that mentality sometimes, um I lose sight of what they're supposed to be doing. Yes, the mistresses. Yes, the mistresses. Because half the time, y'all, I am not paying you to fly your mistress on the state's plane. You're not using public funds, honey. Would I pay you? If I can't do whatever I want on my job, I am not paying you to fly your mistress across the country. You've lost your damn mind. That's reasonable. That's reasonable cause to be fired right there. You're using the money that I work for. I work to earn that money. You take that money, it goes into your pocket so you can fly your mistress. No, sir. No, sir. That's not how you've got to go. That's against company policy. You cannot be here. It's so you if you think about the politicians in your communities, y'all, and the wild things that they do on your dime, they do these wild things on your money. These expensive outings using public funds to they're abusing public funds to live lives of luxury while most of us are slaving away at a 9 to 5, and they make policies related to book challenging and book banning that harm the kids in your community. What sense does that make? I'm paying you to hurt my offspring? Why would I do that? I don't go to work and get stressed out and work from 9 to 5 and then have to come home and turn off everything and be a parent for you to take money out of my pocket, out of my child's mouth, for you to go around the state acting like you ain't got no damn common sense, like you ain't got no home training. No, absolutely not. You see what I'm saying? For- they have they half of them act like they have no home training. If think about it, y'all. If y'all did this stuff at your place of employment, think about it. If you acted the way they are acting at your place of employment, how many of y'all would still have a job? You wouldn't. Your HR department would be so quick to pull you in that office and say, I'm sorry, but we have to cut ties. This is going to be your severance pay. You can be escorted downstairs and you could clean your desk. Correct? Right? You would be fired. They can be fired too. They can all go. They can all be fired. I'm telling y'all, when my child gets older, there's a politician in my state, I'm gunning for his ass. He don't know what's about to hit him. Because if he is still in office by the time that my child's in grade school, it's a little harder for me because I'm a single parent right now. And we live in an area where there's just two of us. But I promise y'all, if he is still in office, and a couple of, by the time she ordered up, I will single-handedly be gunning for him. I'm coming for you, your pockets, everything that you have done that I've had to deal with for the past several. I'm gunning for you. I am gunning for you. I have a vendetta against this man. It's personal at this point. He doesn't know I exist, but he finna know I exist. So that's it. We are the HR department. We are. In that document, I'm serious. I told my dad that. I was like, listen, he does not know. I was listening to, and I'm about to end this because this is a tangent. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of the artist Burna Boy. I love him. I'm obsessed with Burna Boy. I was listening to one of his old albums this weekend, and he has a song with what's the guy's name? Chris from Coldplay. And the song is called Monsters. Hold on, because I don't want to get it wrong. Because I was finna get it. Monsters You Made, right? And it talks about how the government has essentially, like, the government complains about the issues of the people, right? And all the things that the people are doing wrong. But you have created these monsters. Your policies, your procedures, the way you treat the people that you're supposed to be helping, you have literally created these monsters. So you cannot be surprised when they turn on you in full force. You cannot be surprised when uprisings happen. You cannot be surprised when riots happen. You cannot be surprised when protests happen, because these are the beasts that you have created because of the decisions that you have made. You're supposed to be for the people, but a lot of you are for yourself. And I don't care what side of the political platform they fall on, okay? Because I've seen Dems, I've seen Republicans, I've seen all act foolish all the way around. All the way around. And so you can't be surprised. So I don't want him to be surprised when I just start pulling up. So you remember back in da 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 when you said da 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 da, and then this happened, and then you did da da da. I mean, when I tell you I keep records, again, it's not obsessive. It's just I feel like he's so twisted of a politician. He will do anything and say anything to swing with whatever the masses are feeling so he can remain in office. He does not give a shit about any of us. And so I'm going to gun for him. And I also feel so sorry for whatever school that my child attends. I really do. PTA, school board, and let a teacher act up. And I'm not talking about my child not behaving and behaviors getting corrected or not fulfilling. Let anything happen where you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing, or you're teaching my child that is something that's inaccurate. I wish a history teacher would tell my child that slavery was beneficial for Black folks. I'm going to be that parent. I am that fuck around and find out parent. So it is what it is. I have receipts. Mitch McConnell, I don't wish death on anybody. And I'm going to leave it at that. All right, y'all. Do we have any last questions before I go? I was going to make this an hour, but it's been an hour and 43 minutes. But are we surprised? Is there any other questions, comments, concerns? This feels very much like an email. Please let me know if you have any other questions, comments, or concerns, and I'll be happy to respond. I am going to leave it at that because I don't wish death on nobody. And that's it. I thought he was going to croak that day. They caught that man on video and he just stopped mid-sentence. I saw he finna die. And he's still here. I said, that's got to be the most invincible human ever, because he literally just... That video had me blown. And I just knew when I watched it. I said, watch that go down. So this man is dead in like 2 days. Nope. No. Nope. Still here. Uh, stop. um, yes, yes, he is. Although I don't think that he really has a shot based on polling, but that could change. What's the group? Why am I forgetting? Queen. Any way to win blows, baby. At this point, any way to win blows, because anything at this point can happen. Because this country is such a mess. It's such a mess, right? I don't wish, I wouldn't be mad about it though. Like, it's just to be like, that's so mean. That's somebody's. He's disgusting. That's me. That's me. I'll be on your neck. But as soon as my child cut up, I got your back now. I got your back. But you can't cut up either. Everybody got to behave. He's holding on by the threads that the three fates cut. Okay. Y'all remember the movie Hercules? He's literally like the thread. Okay. And the fates are like literally slowly taking their scissors. And they're getting there. But that thread is even raveling. Y'all ever seen rope unravel? It's like the rope is unraveling and the face is like, we finna snip it. But he holding on. he's he's holding on. Wait, y'all remember that? Was it Green Day or was it Good Charlotte? I forget. Somebody had a song, Hold On. I mean, the song is about it's about something different, of course, mental health wise. But that song, Hold On, when you feel like letting go, Mitch McConnell is holding the fuck on. It is a face. Y'all never think about the fact, like, I'm telling you, it was like that scene in Hercules where, like, when he was standing there and when he was standing there and he forgot everything, I said, they finna snip this shit. They getting close. They finna get the scissors and snip it. And they said, no, he ain't ready to go yet. He's not ready to go yet. He is still holding on like the damn Galapagos tortoises. This man gonna live forever. It's just, this man look like a turtle. He looked like a turtle and is living like a Galapagos tortoise. Because at this point, he's not dying. He's not dying at all. He's not. Let me stop because y'all got me on here cutting up. This is not what this is supposed to be about. Okay, somebody's gonna flag this for cruelty towards Mitch McConnell. They did. They said it. So the face is so sick of us. The face are probably like, y'all figure this shit out because y'all. You know what old folks be saying, like, God ain't got nothing to do with this. Don't bring God into this. Don't bring the fates into it. Because ain't nobody got nothing to do with it. Because Galapagos tortoises live forever. You have to admit, Mitch McConnell moves like a tortoise, right? He favors them. And so the only explanation I have is that he has a lifespan of one. Or else, why? Why? He is an endangered species. One of the few of his kind that's left and still trucking along. Like, it's like watching the zoo. Literally, every politician should be an animal at the zoo, and they should be tagged as such. Mitch McConnell will be a part of the Galapagos tortoise display. We don't know what he's doing. He's literally not really doing much, but he's still here, just hanging on. Hanging on. He does. So y'all don't think that he favors tortoises? Y'all think am I lying here? Am I lying? I think he favors a tortoise. He, like, even the speech. See, I'm not taking it this far. Oh my goodness. So I think Liv is saying that he looks more like a snapping turtle. But he ain't got enough motion in the ocean to be a snapping turtle. He not there, y'all. Because you had to look at that video and look at like his staff behind him. Like everybody started. When I tell you, everybody tried to stay cool, calm, and collected, but really it was all in the eyes. Everybody looked like this man finna drop dead. What we finna do? What should we do? What everybody started looking like, all right. So is he like mid-stroke? It's just like y'all know that meme of Elmo with the fire behind him? Because I feel like I'm busting the gates of hell wide open for saying what I'm saying. But they didn't know if that man was mid-stroke or not. They was looking like, oh shit, what's happening? That's just not funny, but it is. It is because I think if I was in their position too, I would be like, oh, this man's about to fall the fuck out. If he drops on national TV, what the hell are we about to do? I don't want to lose my job. I got bills to pay. I did. I thought that man was having a stroke on national TV because when I saw that clip, I said he's stroking the fuck out. He's stroking the fuck out on national TV. And I can't believe like social media was like, is this the day that he's finally gonna die? I just can't. Oh my gosh, y'all. How do we go from here's how you can help with book challenging to Mitch McConnell could have possibly been dying that day on national TV. And yet, unfortunately, here we are. This was just. There were. Because somebody probably knew. Somebody, let me tell you, somebody got cussed out. You know somebody got cussed out because that man should have never been up there to begin with. He already looked like he wasn't feeling well, right? You knew somebody either got fired or cussed that, like, I mean, dragged through the mud. You had to know somebody was sitting there like, now we told your ass that he should have. He was not well enough to do this shit. Now he up there looking like he damn near about to have a stroke, and we standing there like, all right, so who can call 911? Did we call 911? Like, is like, did he see something? Like, just this country is from groceries being hot to Mitch McConnell looked like he was finna die on national TV to the woman who was on the plane screaming, that motherfucker back there is not real. We're living in hell at this point. I think we are living in hell. There's no way you can't convince me that we're not living in hell. This country is a fucking mess. They had defibrillators in the background. Karma finna eat my ass up. Listen, shit. I would have got my ass off the plane. If she would have been like, that motherfucker back there is not real, I would have been like, I'm getting my hands off this plane. Because ain't no way I'm finna fly. And she's seeing shit in the back of the plane. But you know what's wild? Is that even when they low-key told us aliens are real, you know everybody was like, okay, but what you finna about? What you finna do about these groceries? I don't give a fuck if aliens are real. That's how you know things are bad. If you would have said aliens were real 20 years ago, we would have been in a panic. Shit is so bad already. People are like, well, damn, it can't get much worse at this point. Welcome them to Earth. We give zero fucks. That's horrible. We're so unfazed by the fact that there might be aliens because life is already hard enough. We just don't care enough. People are like, oh, there's aliens. Okay, bitch, but my groceries are still over $100 a week. Like, it's damn near 110 degrees every day. I don't give a fuck about no aliens. I'm trying not to die. Oh my goodness gracious. Right? They just, no one gave a shit. Like, listen. They would be here. Aliens would they're probably watching us right now and saying, like, boy, I don't even know if we should even. They already a shit show. Like, it ain't no point. We don't want to be there. The environment is trash. They can't take care of themselves. They don't know how to govern themselves at this point. We don't want no problems. We just go on to the next planet because at this point they're not even worth the trouble. Like, you ever dealt with someone, you even have to deal with them. You ever just look and watch someone and be like, yeah, no, I'm good. Like, they look appealing at first. Like, I've looked at people and be like, dang, they look appealing. I sit there for about 20, 30 more minutes and watch them and be like, hell no. I don't forget it. I don't even want those problems. That's how the aliens look at us. They'd be like, nah, y'all good. Y'all are self-destructive at this point. We not gonna get rid of you because y'all get rid of yourselves at this point. Aliens don't have money for these groceries. Nobody has money for these groceries. Nobody has money for anything on this planet. Explains why it is August and it's 100 plus degrees in places. In August, y'all. In August. It's 100 and plus degrees places. It's a mess. It's a mess. All right. I'm done messing with y'all. Okay. That was a good laugh towards the end. It's gonna get flagged. Or it's gonna get demonetized. One of the two. It's gonna happen. I promise you it's gonna happen. All right, y'all. Good laughs. Good way to end the live. Thank you for joining me. I hope that you were able to get some information out of this. It'll probably be a while again before I do this, but I won't not do this again. It's just been a while since I've done kind of like a sit down and breakdown of everything. But I hope that you have some resources, you have some new ways to think about how you can help, and keeping those numbers in mind, so you can think about like how serious this has gotten. But as always, I appreciate y'all for coming, for listening, for engaging in conversation. It is getting past my bedtime. I got to get up and go to work in the morning. But I'll see y'all I have a video coming out tomorrow. So y'all see me. Well, you won't literally see me live, but I will have more content coming out tomorrow. I hope y'all have a good night. Stay blessed. Read Challenge and Ban books. Read them. Read them. Read them. Promote them. Share them. Continue to engage in the discussions, and I hope y'all have a good night. Bye.